corn industry that makes high fructose corn syrup, which you find in your Coca-Colas and other soda drinks. The reason you don't see sugar because corn industry wants to make money out of it. So that's why you have quota system. And this is a unique phenomenon to the United States. So how does the United States enforce this? Well, they enforce it through additional US notes. And those notes are only applicable to the United States, and that's why they are called US notes. What difference does it make for you? Really no difference. You still have to go with it. It's just another thing for you to worry about. But when you see that label, at least now you know where it comes from. It's still legally binding. Statistical notes, not legally binding. And statistical notes includes something like statistical suffix. While it's not legally binding for you guys, it will be so persuasive that if you see it and it fits, pick that as a correct answer. And we saw that in the first example of today's question, where we were dealing at the statistical suffix level. Decaf or not decaf, right? Not legally binding, but very persuasive. Actually, no. Decaf and not decaf was legally binding because it dealt with the subheading level. I think it was the packages that were not legally binding. I think it was with the size and the packaging further on that we dealt with. That was it, right? Hello? Am I right? He's speaking to the wall. The wall speaks back to me. And I feel like I'm going crazy sometimes. Alright, I'm covering a lot of stuff, guys, really fast, but I think we need to get the structure. So section notes, additional US notes, I'm going into the examples. Another thing that's not legally binding, so this is not legally binding, right? And the units of quantity are not legally binding. How it will be tested? Examiners will ask you, is this legally binding or not? And they'll give you a bunch of answers to answer. You know that this stuff, up to this level, is legally binding. So what it means is that this is not legally binding, but up to this level, it is. This is the way the customs examiners will test you on this type of stuff. Before the exam before last, I didn't test, or I didn't use it in my lectures because they didn't ask about this. But all of a sudden they came out of the blue and they said, well, we're gonna test on this stuff. So I kind of included it in there so you guys know. Okay, now we get to GRIs, General Rule of Interpretation, and we get to learn what they are. So we already know that we have how many? 6 of them. Six. So GRIs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Number 1 is heading. Number 2, section notes, and chapter notes. Number 2, I'm not gonna go with this material. I'm just gonna freestyle because we're not gonna have enough time. So stick with me. Number 2. Imagine that you have a marker that comes without a cap. You just bring markers, right? Are you going to classify this as a marker or a part of a marker? And what is the rule? Sorry. Okay. So one hypothesis. Part of a marker. Okay. What's you? It should be a marker. So we have competing things, right? Part of a marker. Anything in the middle? Sort of a part. We have two extremes. Any moderates? All right. So the question we really need to figure out is how do we know? What are the groundwork for this? And the groundwork is what's known as rule of essential character. Meaning that, how do we know it's a marker? Well, if it looks like almost a marker, if it's essentially a marker, right? If everyone looks at it like, yeah, this is a marker, right? Yeah. Then it is a marker, right? It's kind of vague, and of course I can give you please read chapter 42. It states all the factors that quantity, price, marketing, use in the industry, labeling, who are the ultimate consumers, all this plays a role depending on the product. But essentially, if this looks like a marker, I would say it's a marker because it's only missing a cap. What if I just have a cap? Is it a part of a marker or is it a marker? See, now, what's the essential character? Does this cap have an essential character of a marker? It's specifically made for the marker. No. It looks like a part of a marker, right? We have a student here who brought very good point. She said, can it be an article of plastic? And why is that a very good point? Because this student was very listen to the very important point that I made out of the saw blades example, meaning that if the plastic cap is specifically provided for in a chapter, then I should not even asking you guys this question. It goes into that specific provision, right? So very very good. Thank you, man. I do not think that it's specifically provided for. Right now we're in a universe of trying to talk about GRI 2, which provides for incomplete articles, and unassembled articles or disassembled. The same thing. That's the whole idea. I bring this and this in one shipment. It's put together like this. All I have to do is unpack it and put it together. Can I classify it as a marker, or can I classify it one as a marker because it has essential of a marker and as a marker part, two HTS numbers. Under the general rule 2, because it comes unassembled, it has essential character of one article, right? So this is a marker. I use one number, not two. I don't declare two numbers. But suppose I just brought an extra. I just brought a spare. All right? I bring a spare in just in case. You know, maybe people tend to lose their caps. What can we do? We just to adapt because people are human beings. They have a right to make mistakes, to lose things. Okay, so we just include one just in case. Now, should I classify this as, does this shipment give essential character as a marker, or I classify this as a marker and then declare one as a separate part? Separate part? Who is for the whole thing? one HTS number? No? Everyone is for separate, every separate 1, separate 2, separate 3. Anyone? Okay. Yes, that's correct, because if it's a spare, it has its life of its own. It's no longer incomplete or disassembled, right? I mean, it is incomplete, but it has essential character of the part. You analyze this on its own. Everyone sees the point? Okay. So, one more point to make before we leave. I have coffee here. And it's not an extract. It's a brew. A brew is a mixture of coffee bean whatever and water. So I have a water and I have a coffee. How should I classify this product? And there is no coffee drink provided for. You have a mixture, you have a combination. So the rule is if it's a mixture and it's specifically provided for, let's say coffee drink is in a harmonized tariff schedule, you put it in there. That's the first point. If it is not, you have two different products. You have a coffee powder component, right? Coffee bean roasted coffee, right? And you have water. So now you have to ask yourself a question. Also, we go back to the essential character. Which one is essential? This one or this one? You say coffee? I don't know. Like I said, I'm freestyling. I don't know. But those are good questions to ask. Can I just chew on coffee? Why coffee is essential? I think water is essential because water is an essential component of our life, H2O. Why is that a bad argument? That argument has a right to existence, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it is too general, right?
Yeah, coffee is also too general. Because coffee can be oil, coffee can be this, coffee can be that. But Christine brought also wonderful point. She is talking about what we're slowly integrated to is we slowly went into something which is a question of what happens, how you classify if it's not only incomplete or disassembled, but if it is it's a composite good, right, which is classifiable in several categories across HTS. Let's say 2 or more headings. And if it is classified in 2 or more headings, you go into the GRI 3. And what GRI 3 says is it says one thing. If the product is classifiable, it has A, B, and C. Man. Okay, my trick with the marker backfired on me. Okay, there it is. If it's A, B, and C, and what Christine has been saying is codified in GRI 3A, it says if it's more specifically provided. In one place. If coffee is more specific than water, then it should be classified there. Right? That's called a rule of relative specificity. However, there is a big caveat because GRI 3A says that if any part of the harmonized tariff schedule refers to only the part, so let's say there is water and then there is coffee, and they all are in here, then we must treat the water and coffee as equally specific. What? That takes the whole meaning away from the GRI 3A in the first place, right? So how do we use that rule if we have to treat everything specific? What's that rule of relative specificity? How can it come to life? And the answer is that goes back to 15, my statements about 15 minutes ago, that classifications are made according not only to the make, but also according to the use. So if we have, let's say, a coffee for cows and a coffee for humans, I'm freestyling here, but the point is, if we have a special coffee for cows and we compare those two, those you can compare because you are not comparing the parts, but you're comparing how it is used. And of course, coffee for human consumption, you prefer to the coffee over consumption for bovine animals. That's the stretch, but the real life example in my notes comes with the shavers, electric shavers, because 3 categories are provided for. One is shavers, one is domestic appliances with self-contained electric motor, that's number 2, and number 3 is machines containing electric motor. So you have domestic appliances, you have machines with electric motor, and you have shavers. All of them describe the electric shaver. And that is, but notice, they are not talking about the part of the provision, right? The components apply. We're talking about the use. We're comparing the use. And in there, you opt for the shaver provision because under the rule of relative specificity, shavers are more specifically provided for in shavers provision. Even though domestic appliance with the self-contained electric motor fits the bill, even for machinery with electric motor fits the bill, shavers are more specific. Everyone sees? So this is a rule 3A. Sometimes, as in the coffee example, water and coffee has to be treated as equally specific. A will not work, so what we do is we go down to B, and this is also rule of essential character. And here we are free. We are free to freestyle of what's essential, what's not essential. What are the factors? Same as incomplete and assembled. Same as here, essential character rule. Essential character. You have to analyze what's more expensive, coffee or water? What's more important, coffee or water? What if I use just minuscule amount of coffee, but my main product is water, right? Yeah. Water. I'm all about water, right? Coffee is just a market, coffee water. Sell coffee water, right? It's not absolute, but there is a room for argument, and usually when you deal with concrete questions, you will kind of get a feel what's essential, what's not. Because we all kind of develop a sense that if it's a coffee, brewed coffee, probably coffee is more essential, right? But I'm saying it's not absolute. I'm saying it's possible. What if we cannot decide? Or customs examiners during the customs exam tell us right outright, there is no way you can decide what's more important. They are all important. Coffee is just as important as water. Coffee is just as important as water. What do you do then? You go to the next section, GRI 3C. And GRI 3C says, hey, if you can't decide, you just move all those subjective thoughts and questions to the side, and you go with the one that comes last in numerical order. So HTS number comes out from 99 chapters. You pick the last one. So if water comes in chapter 30, it's not. It comes in chapter 20 something. And coffee comes in chapter 15 or chapter 9. You pick water over coffee not because it's more important, but simply because water is listed last. See, that's the whole idea. So that's last. So it's a last in numerical order. Last in order. So, but of course that means you have to know the classification of both items, right? Alas, in a custom exam, you'll be given those 5 answers.